Welcome to my whai pre-practicum reflection 2020, whereby I will share my pre-practicum scores for each standard and unpack the learning pathway I've planned for myself to demonstrate increased competency throughout my practicum for the year 2020. Te Tiriti o Waitangi Partnership, Standard 1. So for this first standard, I've explored each competency to form an average score of 6.3. I've scored myself relatively high for this standard due to the fact that I've had 3 previous years of intense exploration into culturally responsive practice. Of course, within the classroom setting and now as an RTLB. So I wish to extend and deepen this comprehension and application of tools that enable me to be more culturally responsive in my practice. Ways I'm planning to do that through tangata whenua is include and use culturally responsive whānau engagement through the WEEP model, unpacking the he pikaroa, tātai ako and tapasa documents in more depth and synthesising and aligning how these can be applied to practice. Kaupapa Māori reflective practices and using the tools that we've explored in previous years' study, te huia, te pikana, kia ranga. Explore policy to practice within the RTLB setting. This is something I'm quite passionate about, to explore how we're doing that as a cluster and what that looks like in practice. And of course, extending my understanding from last year's exploration of level 4 at Te Wainanga o Rokawa, and attempting to deepen my understanding and application of Te Kana Māori at level 5. Professional learning, standard 2. So wānanga from Tātai Ako document comes up very strongly here in developing ASU-specific professional learning and extending upon that from previous year's study, enabling student agency and student voice and how that looks in practice within the He Pikaroa framework, and also how that looks throughout the assessment, sharing of assessment, and collaborating to develop collaborative action plans and interventions to support learners. I'll be unpacking within the standard peer supervision and what that looks like, working interprofessionally with colleagues and other outside networks to build my teacher capability within the RTLB role. And of course, looking and unpacking assessment and intervention development with situational analysis, functional behaviour assessments, and how that impacts the collaborative action plan. I scored myself an average score of 5.6 over all the competencies, looking to improve that significantly as we move through my practicum. Professional relationships, standard 3. Here I scored myself quite an high average score of 6.0 across all the competencies and elaborations for this standard, because this is an area I pride myself on and like to believe that I have very strong professional relationships within and across my networks of practice. Whanaungatanga comes through really strongly here, which is relationship based. Here I'm looking to create professional learning and resources for and across all my school contexts and within my cluster. I'm looking to improve interprofessional communication and relationship even further through different strategies. Looking at collaborative learner tech and working with the learner tech team to lead practice across our cluster, but also how assistive learner tech looks within classroom contexts and across schools, and building teacher capabilities to use it more effectively to be adaptive in their teaching and learning practices. I'll be exploring person-centred planning and how that looks and how implications for my practices in RTLB here. And again, the trend of assessment, that theme comes through really strongly, and how situational analysis and a functional behaviour assessment is highly relational, and they are most effective and efficient when worked collaboratively as a team. Learning focus culture, standard 4. This is a particular area I'm quite passionate about, although I scored myself an average over the competencies and elaborations of 5.4. I feel this strongly links to manaakitanga and whanaungatanga in the Tātai document. Here I'm looking at, again, culturally responsive practices, and that comes through as a consistent theme across the entirety of my practicum plan, as with social communication and building social communication skills, not only as professionals but with learners and between learners, and how that looks through interventions. Looking at interprofessional practice here and how that looks in collaborative processes to enhance learning and developing a learning focused culture for the context that we are interacting with. I'm developing professional learning for my liaison schools and also within my cluster to develop their comprehension of interventions that can support learning, particularly with UDL, Universal Design for Learning, and how we can incorporate student agency into all that we do. Again, a very strong theme across my practicum plan. Design for Learning, Standard 5. Here it's heavily entrenched in ako, our everyday practice and what we do, and I've scored myself an average of 5.2 across the competencies and elaborations for Design for Learning. This is our core business, how we design learning to meet the needs of our learning diverse. And here again you see the strong theme of culturally responsive reflective practices and using the WEAP model, the whānau Education Action Plan model, as a tool to engage whānau. Assessment for practice and how that looks, and how we can use these assessment tools such as situational analysis and functional behaviour assessments to inform practice. And again, universal design for learning is a key theme across my practicum plan. As a framework that teachers can use to build their capability in adapting learning to meet where learners are at. Here we also see he pikaro, tātai ako and tapasa, and exploring and synthesising that to how that can be applied within my RTLB role and building the capabilities of teachers and using those documents to inform practice. And lastly, teaching, Standard 6. Here you see my average score again sit at 6.0, which is a lot higher than some of my other standards that I have self-assessed. Again, ako, this teaching is our core business once again, and our practice is entrenched in this particular standard. Again, you see the same themes emerging: culturally responsive practices, universal design for learning, and incorporating social communication and self-regulation interventions or programs that can help support learners engage with the learning curriculum and also the social learning curriculum as well. Again, the key theme of assessment for practice, and assessment tools that can inform practice and how these can be adapted to meet the needs of our learners. And of course our key frameworks that I'm exploring throughout this practicum and applying them in practice within my RTLB role, and again building teacher capability and utilising these tools to enhance their practice and be more culturally responsive themselves. Here you see an overview of the entirety of my self-assessment against the whai framework for my practicum for 2020, and you can see where my strengths sit and where I can see significant areas for growth, in particular standards where I'll be placing plenty of energy to ensure I am growing my competency not only across each standard, but particularly within those where I see significant room for growth and development.